I adjusted my simple black blazer, standing in the marble lobby of Harrison Enterprises. Around me, my family members streamed into the main conference room, dressed in their designer best for the emergency board meeting. No one spared me a glance. I was invisible, just as I'd been for the past 7 years. "Emma, what are you doing here?" My Uncle James's voice cut through the pre-meeting chatter. He stood in the doorway of the conference room, his expensive suit and carefully styled gray hair screaming old money and power. "I'm here for the meeting," I said calmly, holding up the company ID I still kept. "I own shares, remember? The ones Grandpa left me." A dismissive laugh rippled through the gathering crowd. My cousin Peter smirked from behind his father. "Those worthless Class B shares. They don't even give you voting rights anymore." He was right. 7 years ago, when I'd refused to sell my small inheritance of company shares, the board led by Uncle James had voted to convert them to non-voting stock. It was their way of ensuring I'd never have a say in the family business. "This is a critical meeting," Uncle James said, straightening his Italian silk tie. "This is for successful family members only. People who understand business." The irony of his words almost made me laugh. If only he knew why this emergency meeting had been called. If only he knew who really held the cards. But I started, playing my part perfectly. "You what?" My cousin Amanda cut in, her diamond bracelet catching the light as she gestured dismissively. "You'll contribute your vast experience from working at that little investment firm? What do you even do there? Secretary." More laughter. They had no idea that my little investment firm was just a front, that I was actually the founder and CEO of Phoenix Capital, one of the most secretive and successful investment companies in the country. The same company that had just acquired 45% of Harrison Enterprises through a series of shell corporations. "This meeting is about saving the company," Uncle James said firmly. "Something you wouldn't understand. Now, if you'll excuse us, we're expecting an important investor." He closed the door in my face, the heavy wood making a satisfying thud. I checked my watch, right on schedule. I walked to the elevator, pressed the button for the top floor and entered my private office, the one none of them knew existed. Inside, I changed from my simple blazer into an Armani suit worth more than Uncle James's car. My assistant Claire was waiting. "Everything's ready," she said, handing me a leather portfolio. "They have no idea Phoenix Capital is you. The paperwork is prepared exactly as you wanted it." I opened the portfolio, reviewing the documents one last time. Acquisition papers, voting rights transfers, new board appointments, everything I needed to take control of Harrison Enterprises. "How much time do I have?" I asked, although I already knew the answer. "They're all assembled in the conference room," Claire replied, a small smile playing on her lips. "Mr. Harrison is about to announce the company's financial crisis. Then you're expected to make your grand entrance as the mysterious CEO of Phoenix Capital." I nodded, thinking back to 7 years ago. I just graduated with my MBA, full of ideas about modernizing Harrison Enterprises. But Uncle James and the rest of the family had laughed me out of the boardroom. "Leave the business to the men," they'd said. "Focus on finding a husband instead." So I had left, taking my small inheritance and grandmother's advice about patience. I'd built Phoenix Capital from nothing, operating in complete secrecy, watching as my family's arrogance slowly drove Harrison Enterprises toward bankruptcy. Now they needed a savior, and they had no idea that the mysterious billionaire investor they'd been courting was the same person they'd just kicked out of their meeting. "Send the signal," I told Claire. "It's time for the CEO of Phoenix Capital to make an appearance." She pressed a button on her phone, sending a message to the boardroom that their potential savior had arrived. I gathered my documents and stood before the mirror, checking my reflection. Gone was the invisible cousin in the simple blazer. In her place stood a woman worth billions, about to buy out the family that had underestimated her for so long. "Ready?" Claire asked, holding the door. I smiled, thinking of Uncle James's smirk as he closed the door in my face. "Oh yes," I said. "I've been ready for 7 years." The corridor to the conference room had never felt longer. With each step I could feel the weight of 7 years of planning, of silent victories and patient waiting, carrying me forward. Behind those doors, my family was about to learn a very expensive lesson about underestimating the wrong person. I paused at the entrance, straightened my suit and nodded to Claire. It was time for the mystery investor to make her entrance. Time to show them exactly who they'd kicked out of their meeting. The conference room fell silent as I walked in. Uncle James stood at the head of the table, mid-sentence about the company's dire financial situation. His face lit up when he saw me, not with recognition but with desperate hope. After all, in this suit, with my hair elegantly styled and my posture radiating power, I looked nothing like the failed cousin they'd dismissed minutes ago. "Ladies and gentlemen," Claire announced from behind me, "allow me to introduce the CEO of Phoenix Capital." I surveyed the room, savoring the moment. My cousin Peter had stopped texting under the table. Amanda's perfectly manicured hand froze halfway to her mouth. Uncle James practically tripped over himself rushing to greet me. "We're so honored to have you here," he gushed, extending his hand. "I'm James Harrison, CEO of Harrison Enterprises." I let him hold out his hand for just a moment too long before taking it. "For now," I said quietly, watching confusion flicker across his face. Taking my place at the head of the table, his place, I opened my portfolio. "Shall we discuss why Harrison Enterprises is worth saving?" "Of course," Uncle James recovered quickly, retaking his seat. "As you can see from our projections." "Your projections are wrong," I cut him off, sliding financial documents across the table. "Your company is bleeding money faster than you're admitting. Your Asian markets are collapsing, your tech division is 3 years behind the competition, and your real estate holdings are mortgaged to the hilt." Shocked murmurs rippled through the room. These were secrets they'd tried desperately to hide from potential investors. "How did you?" Peter started, but I continued as if he hadn't spoken. "You need more than an investor," I said, my voice carrying to every corner of the room. "You need someone to completely restructure this company. Someone who understands modern business practices, someone who isn't trapped in outdated thinking." Uncle James's face had turned an interesting shade of red. "With all due respect, we have generations of experience. Generations of running this company into the ground," I corrected him. "Would you like to know your current market value? It's less than 1/3 what it was 7 years ago. 7 years. I saw the number register with some of them. 7 years since they'd laughed me out of this very room. Phoenix Capital is prepared to acquire a controlling interest in Harrison Enterprises," I continued, sliding more documents across the table. "We already own 45% through various subsidiaries. This offer is for an additional 15%. 60%? Uncle James sputtered. "But that would mean Phoenix Capital, that I would have complete control of the company." I smiled, watching comprehension slowly dawn on their faces. "Including the right to appoint a new board of directors and CEO." Amanda stood up suddenly. "You can't do this. This is a family company." "Is it?" I asked softly. "Because minutes ago you were quite eager to sell to a stranger. Or does family only matter when it's convenient?" I stood, walking around the table slowly. "Would you like to know how Phoenix Capital grew so powerful so quickly? We looked for companies like this one. Businesses run by arrogant men so convinced of their own superiority that they couldn't see the world changing around them." Stopping behind Uncle James's chair, I continued. "Companies that ignored talented people because they didn't fit the right profile. Companies that valued tradition over innovation, ego over progress." "Who are you?" Uncle James whispered, finally asking the right question. I leaned down, speaking just loud enough for everyone to hear. "Someone who understands business. Someone you kicked out of a meeting less than an hour ago." The recognition that swept through the room was almost palpable. Peter dropped his phone. Amanda sank back into her chair. Uncle James's face went from red to white in an instant. "Emma," he choked out. "Surprise," I said softly, straightening up. "Still think I don't understand business, Uncle James?" The silence that followed was deafening. 7 years of underestimation, of dismissal, of condescension, all shattered in a single moment. But I wasn't done yet. Not even close. "Now," I said, returning to my place at the head of the table, "shall we discuss the terms of your surrender? Or would you prefer to explain to the shareholders why you rejected a billion-dollar lifeline because of your pride?" The choice was clear. And as I watched my family's empire crumble before me, I couldn't help but think that sometimes, revenge is best served in a designer suit with a side of hostile takeover. The next hour was a masterclass in corporate dismantling. One by one, I laid out the terms of Phoenix Capital's takeover. My family sat in stunned silence as I systematically stripped away their power, their privileges, and their illusions of control. First, I said, pulling out another document, all current board members will tender their resignations effective immediately. You can't just dash, Peter began. I can and I will. I slid the resignation letters across the table. Sign them now, or I'll call an emergency shareholder meeting and have you removed publicly. Your choice. Uncle James stared at the paper in front of him, his hand trembling slightly. Everything I built. Everything you inherited, I corrected him. And then nearly destroyed through mismanagement and ego. Amanda, tears streaking her expensive mascara, tried one last plea. But we're family. Family. I stood up, planting my hands on the table. Was it family when you blocked my proposals for digital transformation? When you mocked my MBA thesis about modernizing the company? When you told the industry I was just a failed heiress playing at business? I pulled up the company's financial records on the screen behind me. While you were all flying private jets and buying vacation homes with company money, I was building something real. Phoenix Capital has acquired 37 companies in 7 years. We've turned every single one of them profitable. The numbers didn't lie. My success was there in black and white, undeniable and overwhelming. Here's what's going to happen, I continued. Harrison Enterprises will be restructured. The old board is out. The nepotism ends today. From now on, positions will be earned, not inherited. I pressed a button and Claire entered with a new stack of documents. These are your severance packages. Generous ones, provided you sign non-disclosure agreements and leave quietly. And if we refuse? Uncle James asked, finding his voice at last. I smiled, pulling up another document on the screen. Then I released the audit findings to the SEC. The hidden accounts, the manipulated books, the insider trading, all of it. The color drained from his face. He knew I had him. Had all of them. You've been planning this for years, Peter said, realization finally dawning. All those quiet investments, the shell companies. 7 years, I confirmed. Long enough to watch you run this company into the ground. Long enough to build Phoenix Capital into something powerful enough to swallow Harrison Enterprises whole. I walked to the window looking out over the city skyline. You know what the funniest part is? If you had listened to me 7 years ago, none of this would have been necessary. My proposals would have saved the company. But you couldn't see past your own prejudices. Turning back to face them, I saw something I'd never seen before in their eyes. Respect tinged with fear. You have until the end of the day to sign those papers, I said. After that, the offer expires and I do this the hard way. One by one they signed. Uncle James was last, his signature shaky but legible. Claire, I called, please escort the former board members out. Their building access will be revoked effective immediately. As they filed out, defeated and shell-shocked, Uncle James paused at the door. Emma, I underestimated you. We all did. Yes, I said simply. You did. The door closed behind them, leaving me alone in the conference room where, 7 years ago, they'd crushed my dreams of running the family company. My phone buzzed a news alert. The market had already caught wind of the takeover. Harrison Enterprises stock was soaring on news of the Phoenix Capital acquisition. I sat down in the CEO's chair, my chair now, and opened my laptop. There was work to be done. A company to rebuild. A legacy to reshape.